Hello, and welcome to week 3. Thank you for hanging out with watching these videos. I am glad to have your time. I'm still here in my office while you're watching this. I'm probably in Amsterdam on an 8-hour layover if you're watching this on Monday, hopefully finding something cool to explore. I want to talk a little bit about your new essay assignment. It's definitely a shift from the last one. Before you, in Units 1 and 2, you were analyzing works by Faulkner, Hemingway, Hurston, and a few others. So this time we're shifting to Dr. Seuss, which can seem deceptively simple to a lot of students because we've read them as children and we have this idea that he's just telling a cute little story, helping kids to read. But Dr. Seuss was frequently, quite often, taking a moral or social or political commentary that he wanted to get across and hiding it underneath a children's story. That can be most clearly seen probably in the Lorax. So if you've read the Lorax or if you've seen the movie, then you probably are aware that he's making a larger argument against the logging industry and against businesses taking advantage of the environment for the sole purpose of profit and wanting society, for individuals to stop and think about the damage we're doing to the environment. Now, it is important, since I've brought up the movie, that you are analyzing the books for this paper because many of the movies were not actually written by him and some of them caused lawsuits from Seuss's estate. So keep that in mind. You want to stick with the books themselves. I've put in links to YouTube videos where they're reading the books out loud, so you can do that. If you have access to the books, if you're fortunate enough to have some in your house, wonderful. You can also go to the Alachua County Library or any county library and check one out. They have several of them at the Santa Fe Library, so let me know if anyone's having an issue on that. And what I want you to do is to dig in and start thinking about what kind of commentary could be hiding in this. What is he saying when he's talking about Ural the turtle? You could also give some historical context. If you look at a work like Horton, Here's a Who, you can see several different meanings in that one. One of the ones, the one that he was intending, was actually to look at the need for America to come alongside Japan post World War II and help Japan to recover. He's put in things in his illustrations to help bring his point across. So if you look at Horton Hears a Who, or if you've read it in the past, think about that vulture that's flying along with its wings spread and it's got the clover in its mouth and it drops the clover with the Whoville people in it into the field of clovers. That's actually supposed to represent the bomber that came along and took out Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The pink clover field is very similar to fields that you can see in Japan, and the white mountains behind it are very similar to the mountains that surround those very fields in Japan. So he's trying to get across that Japan was the smaller country and that we needed to come alongside it and help to rebuild it as us, as we are the bigger nation. We're Horton and more capable of protecting them. So that was the main point he put in there, something that you could research and look through. There's a wonderful source at the Santa Fe Library written by Donald Pease, which I highly recommend. It's Pease spelled Pease. It's in both hard copy, which I might actually have out on my desk, but it is also available in ebook. So if you're not here at Santa Fe, you can go into the library online as you did for the first essay, and you can look up the catalog and find Donald Pease's book on Dr. Seuss. I highly recommend it. You don't need to read the entire book for this essay, as this is a 750 word essay, which puts it at about 3 pages. But what you can do is you can go to the index of the book. So you're going to open the book itself and you're going to flip back to the index. And from the index, you're going to look up the book that you're reading. So if you're reading, let's say that you chose the Butter Battle book, which is a phenomenal book. You've chosen the Butter Battle book. You're going to go to the index of Donald Pease's book and you're going to look up Butter Battle book or the Lorax or whichever one you're chosen. And it's going to give you the pages of Donald Pease's book where that book is discussed. So then you can go to just those pages and you'll know there's no need to really read the entire book. I need to read the section on the Butter Battle book. So then you'll go and read those pages and see what was going on in Seuss's life, what was going on politically, what kind of commentary was he intending on making. So that way you can give a very thorough analysis of the argument, of the commentary that's going on behind the silly wording of the Butter Battle book or the Lorax. A lot of students really enjoy the Sneetches as well because there's a lot of social commentary that you could apply to that. You also want to think about when it was written and what was going on in our country when it was written. That'll help you to decipher some of what he's trying to get across, and as I said, Donald Pease's book will help with that as well. There's also a wonderful book in the library about the philosophies behind Dr. Seuss. There are actually a few books about children's literature and the philosophies hidden behind them. So look for your sources at the Santa Fe Library. They are there. So look them up and dig through them. Some of the books like Yertle the Turtle, you might want to do a basic Google search to get yourself started, but you will still need 2 scholarly sources from the Santa Fe Library outside of the book itself, okay? So make sure that you look that over. So the next thing I want to talk about is what we have to do this week. So I've got my 2 computer screens here to look at, make sure we go over everything. So your argumentative essay, your Dr. Seuss essay, you will be writing an actual essay, and then you'll be taking that information and putting it into a PowerPoint form. So in an in-person 16-week class, you would actually present that PowerPoint in person with an oral presentation. For this class, because it's online, you'll simply be submitting in a PowerPoint in which you need to get your main ideas across. So you want to think about boiling down your essay to the main ideas. You need to have 12 to 14 slides. The first one needs to be an introduction that says, who you are, what your name is, what the class is, the title of the book you're analyzing. Your last slide should have your works cited, which you'll already have done from the essay. So it's really just going to be copying and pasting your citations from the essay into the last page of the PowerPoint. Now, some of the indentations are going to get a little wonky in the PowerPoint. There's not a lot you can do about that, but we're just talking about indentations, so we're not going to worry about that for the PowerPoint. We'll make sure those are right just in the essay. In between that first and last essay, you want to make sure that each slide is going over a main idea. You want to think about how much information you should have on each slide. You don't want your audience having to read an entire paragraph on each slide. You want to have more bullet points to get your main ideas across. So think about what your main ideas are. What do you see as the argument, the hidden commentary in Seuss? How can you bring that out? Maybe you chose to do a bit of comparison between the arguments. You might see the same argument flowing through a couple of different books. There are several books with the same characters in it, or just even the same kind of commentary running through it. So you might want to do that as well. You want to just make sure all those main ideas are popping up in your PowerPoint. And feel free to email me, like I've said before, with any questions, because I know this one might raise some questions and I'm here to answer them. So also for week 3, you will be submitting a works cited. That's just your list of citations from the sources that you found. This is the opportunity for me to look over your citations and to say something like you're missing scholarly sources. As you've probably already discovered from your first essay, if you don't have scholarly sources from the library, then it does hurt your grade. So this is your opportunity to find out if you have sources that are scholarly from the library, or if you've only done your Google searches, this is the warning that you're going to want to change those, okay? So your citations, I put in a link for ezbib.com. You can build them on that website, or Son of Citation. The library will often have a little cite button that you can push, and you can build your citations right in there as well. But when it comes to building citations from YouTube, it's probably easiest to use ezbib to do that, or Citation Machine. So along with your citations, if you want full credit, you need to be annotating those citations. That means that after each citation, you're going to be putting in a couple of sentences that explain what that source is and how or why it's helpful for your essay. And what that does is help you to stop and pause and think about why you have this source. Is it actually helpful? Because if you're not using it, then it shouldn't be in your works cited. There shouldn't be anything in your works cited unless it's actually being used and cited in your essay, okay? So make sure that you're looking that over. Also make sure that you're following the links that I put into things like OWL Purdue to help you figure out citations. Remember that OWL Purdue is a phenomenal source. You can go there anytime you have a question. If you're wondering how do I quote something, how do I cite something that's long, that's 4 or 5 sentences long, go over to OWL Purdue, look up MLA block citations. Are you wondering about, every now and then I have a student cite the Bible, it's a difficult text to cite, so how do you do that? Look it up on OWL Purdue under MLA citations. They have everything there. If you're struggling with commas, sentence fragments, any grammar issues, they have worksheets that help you with answers, so you can look that over as well, okay? So this is an online course. Make sure that you are researching any questions that you have or coming to me. That works cited list will have to be submitted by June 2nd, and you're also going to have a rough draft. And remember that you're going to use Smart Thinking. So Smart Thinking is right there on the left side of the course, and you can just click Smart Thinking link, and it will take you right over where you can submit your essay for tutor feedback, and then you'll give me a screenshot to show that you've done that. You've also got some reading to do for this week. And a thorough discussion board. So for your reading, you're going to be starting chapter 10 of the Pocket Reader, which is all argumentative, which is a very, Great chapter put together by Pearson. You've also got a video put together by a couple of Harvard professors on what makes successful argumentative writing. So make sure that you get through that yourself as well. You'll just be beginning chapter 10. So page 296 of chapter 10 is going to be that list of 4 things that help make an essay successful argumentatively. So if I look at page 296, the first thing is formulate a clear thesis. So you're going to be reading through these first few essays on the glass ceiling and school prayer. You're going to look through them and say, did they have a clear thesis? One thing to keep in mind, and a little trap that can be difficult for students, is that it can be hard to step back and say, well, I agree with this essay, but it's not well written. Keep in mind that saying that an essay is well written does not mean you agree with it. And it could be the one you disagree with is better written, and that's okay. You don't have to change your point of view. You just need to be able to acknowledge this is well written, this is not well written, and here's why. It doesn't have a clear thesis is a big deal. So you need to step back and think, what is the clear thesis? Does it have a main idea? Remember, the thesis, as this is not academic writing, might not be the last sentence of the first paragraph, but it should be there and you should be able to find it. And if you can't find it, don't automatically think that it's you. Wonder, was it well written? Is there a clear main idea? The second thing is anticipate audience response. Did the author anticipate audience response? If the author did not anticipate audience response, then that's a lack. That's something that makes it not well written. And sometimes that's a counter argument. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes with a few of these, like let's think of we're going to get to Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. When he's using biblical references and biblical stories, it's because he's addressing clergymen. So he's thinking, my audience is pastors. How do I motivate pastors? I'm going to bring in a biblical argument. So think about these authors when they're talking about the glass ceiling. Did they consider their audience? Did they appeal to the audience's emotions? Now, you don't want to have too much emotion, but you don't want to have too little either. Was there a proper use of emotions? Number 4, support the argument with sound reasoning. Is there sound reasoning, logic, and organization? Logic and organization are very important, so consider those things. You're going to be just picking 2 of those essays. I would recommend either doing the pro and con for school prayer or doing 2 or 3 of the glass ceilings, and that way you can compare 2 essays or 3 essays on the same topic and decide whether or not they're well written and state why. So that kind of wraps up week 3. It is a very big and difficult week, so feel free to email me anytime during week 3. I will be in the States, so I'll be in your time zone, and I am available. So we could also meet in a conference if you would like, online, or meet on campus in the Northwest campus. So feel free to reach out. Have a great week.